Coming up on Arirang News. In Paris, South Korean President Yoon holds a bilateral summit with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, where the two leaders discuss bolstering cooperation in various fields, including science, technology, and the economy. With the vote next Tuesday to decide which city will host the 2030 World Expo being, President Yoon in Paris gives a final push to promote Busan as the best destination. Tonight, we take a look back at Korea's efforts to bring the Expo to the country's second largest city. A 4-day truce period appears to have begun after 7 weeks of Israel-Hamas fighting, with aid trucks crossing into Gaza and captives said to be released in the coming hours. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. President Yoon is on a three-day visit to Paris, promoting South Korea's bid to host the 2030 World Expo in Busan. On Friday, the leader sat down with his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron, for a bilateral summit. Our Oh Soo-young, traveling with the president, tells us what came out of those summits. So, Soo-young, hi. The South Korean and French leaders held talks on Friday morning. Tell us more.
Right, Jong. So President Yoon met with President Emmanuel Macron for a breakfast summit on Friday morning at the Elysee Palace. And you're just in time for the results. They just came out, and we heard that they talked about a broad range of issues. Let's start with the economic front. Now, on the economic front, the two leaders discussed the progress that their companies are making, their huge IT companies, battery companies, lots of future industries, companies in the future industries sector, as they try to cooperate more on, futuristic technology such as renewable energy, nuclear, also quantum technology, and semiconductors, of course. So they're trying to create more collaborations between the two sides, especially with startups and by encouraging more entrepreneurship together. So that's what they really discussed, the progress that they have also seen since June, which was their previous summit, also held at the Elysee Palace. So they were checking up basically on the kind of economic initiatives and collaborations that have been happening since then. And the two leaders also discussed climate. Of course, that's a very important agenda for both countries. And President Macron is said to have shown strong support for President Yoon's carbon-free energy initiative. So they were talking about carbon neutrality and how the two countries are pursuing the transition to net zero. So that was the second topic they talked about. And we've been seeing quite a lot of geopolitical developments, all sorts of conflicts, twists and turns since the two leaders last spoke in June as well. So the two leaders discussed North Korea's nuclear missile threat, of course, and the need to really muster up global coordination in terms of putting pressure on Pyongyang with the proper enforcement of sanctions. So that's one of the security-related topics that they discussed. On top of that, of course, the recent Israel-Hamas conflict that has been growing bigger and bigger. They exchanged their views on the developments in the Middle East. Also, President Macron and President Yoon, they discussed South Korea's non-permanent member status in the United Nations Security Council, which will begin next year. And of course, France is very much a P5 country, one of the permanent members of the Security Council. So they have many things to talk about on how they're going to really collaborate on some of the world's most pressing security issues. And they indeed agreed to do that going forward. So this summit, of course, it was held only 5 months after their previous summit, but it looks like the two leaders had quite a lot to talk about over breakfast, presumably over coffee and a croissant, of course.
Right, Soo-young. And the president is, of course, pushing for the World Expo bid, meeting with as many relevant people as possible in Paris. Tell us more about his efforts there.
Right, so President Yoon touched down in Paris on Thursday, and he had to land running. Basically, he attended a banquet for Paris-based diplomats and also delegates related to the Bureau International des Expositions. Excuse my French accent. As he tried to really promote South Korea's bid to host the expo in the southern coastal city of Busan. He said that the envisioned Busan Expo in 2030 would promote understanding and exchanges of different cultures, technologies, and ideas as what he called an expo of solidarity. And on Friday evening, he's going to be holding another dinner with BIE representatives. He'll be introducing Busan's vision for a sustainable future through global solidarity in the fields of climate change and digital innovations in particular. That's according to his senior press secretary, Kim Eun-hae. Now, Kim said that President Yoon will be highlighting the spirit and the vision of the Busan Expo, which aims to reduce the gap between countries in terms of economic, social, and digital equality, and create a foundation for sustainable prosperity for all of humanity. And Busan, in that regard, will become a platform to promote knowledge sharing and bring together global coordination for such efforts. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
President Yoon Suk-yeol would emphasize that the Republic of Korea, which overcame the ruins of war 70 years ago and achieved miraculous development, is the optimal partner to solve the challenges facing humanity as a responsible member of the international community based on its past experience.
Right, as you said, the final vote for the 2030 World Expo host city is only 4 days away, and the stakes are higher than ever. Thank you for your report, Soo-young.
Have a nice evening, Jiyoung.
And in related news, the city that'll host the 2030 World Expo will be decided next Tuesday at the 173rd General Assembly of the Bureau International des Expositions, the event's organizer, in Paris. With hopes high, our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin takes a look back on Korea's journey to try and bring the World Expo to Busan.
The decision on which country will host the 2030 World Expo is just around the corner. South Korea's second-largest city, the southern port city of Busan, is competing against Saudi Arabia's Riyadh and Italy's Rome. While this year has been packed with expo-related events, Busan's preparations started years before.
Busan's efforts to host the expo have been ongoing since 2016. Throughout the last 7 years, South Korea as a whole and the city government have worked hard. For example, Busan promoted its expo bid to regions that it did not have close contact with before, such as Africa.
Korea has gone all out to bring the expo to Busan. Designating the 2030 World Expo Busan as a national task, President Yoon, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, and Foreign Affairs Minister Park Jin traveled to dozens of countries to rally support. President Yoon even took the stage as a speaker during Busan's fourth presentation to the Bureau International des Expositions. The private sector joined forces too, with the leaders of Samsung, SK, Hyundai Motor, and LG going overseas as economic delegations, promoting the Busan Expo by screening promotional videos and installing large-scale advertisements. According to the Prime Minister, government officials and business leaders visited 180 countries, all told. Businesses also work diligently at home to boost domestic interest.
We teamed up with the Busan city government to establish this designated area for the 2030 World Expo in hopes of bringing it to Busan.
I didn't know that Korea had prepared so much for the expo bid. It makes me realize how important this is. I really hope Busan wins.
Renowned cultural figures joined in too. BTS held a free concert in Busan, and soprano Cho Soo-mi, along with singer Psy and aespa's Karina, took part in Busan's BIE presentation. But the heart of Busan's campaign lies with the unrivaled enthusiasm of the people living there. Thousands welcomed the BIE when they arrived at Busan train station in April for an on-site visit.
I would go after almost 20 years in expos, and I have been on many, many inquiry missions throughout expos. I don't think I have ever seen such an enthusiasm in the local population for an event.
Behind this was the Citizens Committee on Busan's bid for the 2030 World Expo, which also organized the Gwanghwanli Fireworks Festival and expo-themed movie and music festivals with the public.
Busan has experience hosting major international events like the World Cup and Asian Games. So we have the know-how, the facilities and efficient transport infrastructure. That's why Busan is ready to successfully host the expo.
With fingers firmly crossed, all that's left now is for the 182 BIE member countries to make a decision in Paris on November 28th.
부산 화이팅!
파이팅!
Busan Expo 화이팅!
부산 화이팅!
송유진, Arirang News.
The foreign ministers of South Korea, Japan, and China will meet over the weekend in Busan to discuss their leaders' summit that hasn't been held in over 4 years. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae-eun-ji has more.
Top diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China will sit down for talks on resuming trilateral summits between their leaders that have not taken place for the past 4 years. Seoul's foreign ministry announced on Friday that its minister Park Jin and his Japanese and Chinese counterparts, Yoko Kamikawa and Wang Yi, are set to meet in Busan on Sunday. Foreign ministers of the three countries last held such a meeting in August 2019. The ministry explained that the three officials will discuss details regarding resuming the trilateral summit. Ways to deal with North Korean threats following the regime's recent military spy satellite launch, as well as measures to boost cooperation between the three countries, will also be on the agenda. Park will also hold separate bilateral meetings with his Chinese and Japanese counterparts on Sunday. The trilateral summit between the presidents of the three countries was last held in December 2019 in China's southwestern city of Chengdu. It has not taken place for more than 4 years, largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic and as relations deteriorated between Seoul and Tokyo. The South Korean government, which aims to hold this kind of summit before the end of this year, has been in talks with Japan and China after the three countries agreed to hold a three-way meeting at an early date during a senior officials meeting in September. While there are a lot of different speculation as to when the summit will be held, one expert says it could take place next month.
The three countries have already decided to hold the summit as soon as possible during working-level talks, and the summit between South Korea, China and Japan is traditionally held in December, so I think it could possibly be held in late December.
But he explains that the issues surrounding Taiwan and strained relations between Seoul and Beijing could pose risks. China earlier lodged a complaint after President Yoon pointed out the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and a rules-based maritime order in the South China Sea, in an interview with a British media outlet ahead of his visit to London. Other pundits suggest that the summit could be held sometime early next year, either in January or April. Sunday will also mark the first time in more than 2 years for Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to visit South Korea. All eyes are now on the message China will send in response to heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
As Pyongyang talks up the success of its latest spy satellite launch, its leader Kim Jong-un has called it the regime's right to self-defense as he visited North Korea's space agency. His daughter Kim Ju-ae was also there, making a first public appearance in months. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was all smiles when he visited the National Aerospace Development Administration on Thursday alongside his daughter Kim Ju-ae. The visit came a day after North Korea announced that it had successfully launched a military reconnaissance satellite into orbit. North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Kim saying that having a military reconnaissance satellite is a proud exercise of the right to self-defense that cannot be compromised.
The launch of the reconnaissance satellite is the legal right of the Democratic Republic of Korea to strengthen its right to self-defense. It will greatly enhance the military's war readiness in accordance with the security environment created in the country and surrounding areas caused by the enemy's dangerous military actions.
Also at the site was Kim's daughter, Kim Ju-ae, appeared in public for the first time since attending a military parade in September, commemorating the regime's founding anniversary. North Korean media also highlighted that Kim Ju-ae attended the launch's celebration banquet and gave more attention to her than her mother, Lee Seol-ju. Meanwhile, North Korea on Thursday revealed video footage of the launch. The video captured 4 streaks of flames spewing out of the rocket, indicating that the regime increased the number of engines from 2 to 4. The KCNA also reported that its spy satellite had taken pictures of U.S. military bases in Guam and transmitted them to Pyongyang. North Korea said the spy satellite will officially begin its mission on December 1st. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Admiral Yang Yong-mo, the ROK Navy's Chief of Naval Operations, met with his U.S. counterpart, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, on Friday and discussed methods for further military cooperation. This was during Admiral Franchetti's 2-day trip to South Korea for talks on strengthening joint defense and to encourage the U.S. naval forces in Korea. During the talks, Admiral Yang said the joint efforts of the two navies serve as a model example of South Korea-U.S. cooperation and that they should work more closely to take their combined defense posture to the next level. The two met on the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier, which arrived in the southern port city of Busan earlier this week. Franchetti previously served as commander of the U.S. Naval Forces, Korea. In the Middle East, for the first time in 7 weeks of Israel-Hamas fighting, there's no sound of artillery fire, airstrikes, nor rockets in Gaza, as 4-day truce period appears to have begun. 8 trucks crossed into Gaza from Egypt, and captives are said to be released in the coming hours. Our An Sung-jin has the latest.
Israel and Hamas began a 4-day ceasefire on Friday morning. CNN journalists in the south of Israel said the sounds of artillery fire, airstrikes, and rockets stopped around 20 minutes after the ceasefire took effect at 7 a.m. As a part of the truce, Hamas is set to release 13 women and children later in the day, after Qatar mediated a deal to free hostages held in Gaza. A total of 50 hostages out of some 240 people kidnapped by Hamas will be freed over the 4-day ceasefire, while 150 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli prisons will also be released in exchange, starting with 39 on Friday. The pause between Israel Defense Forces and Hamas comes following nearly 7 weeks of fighting, after Hamas launched attacks on Israel on October 7th. Humanitarian aid is also being delivered to the Gaza Strip through the Rafah crossing, the only access point now for assistance to enter the enclave. According to Egypt's State Information Service, some 130,000 liters of diesel fuel and 4 trucks of gas will enter Gaza from Egypt daily starting Friday. Humanitarian supplies including food, medicine, and water will also enter the Strip on 200 trucks. According to officials in Gaza, since the October 7th attack, nearly 15,000 people have died in Gaza, including over 6,000 children, while around 36,000 people have been injured. And the death toll could be even higher, with the authorities in Gaza pointing to difficulties in retrieving bodies as the war escalated. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear that Israel's military campaign will continue after the pause.
We'll continue with our war aims, namely to eradicate Hamas.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, speaking to the IDF naval personnel on Thursday, also vowed that Israel would resume intense fighting after the short truce. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
The job market in South Korea is showing signs of slowing, and new positions available for young people are logging a continuous decline. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Friday, there were 379,000 more jobs available in the second quarter of the year compared to the same period last year. This is the first time since 2021 that year-on-year growth has fallen below the 400,000 mark. Additionally, the job market for those in their 20s and younger recorded a decline for the 3rd consecutive quarter, shedding nearly 70,000 jobs, with the retail sector reducing employment opportunities during this period. Staying with young people, Visiting pop-up stores is a popular trend for a number of people here in Korea, especially among the younger generations. And with this trend, marketing specialists are looking at ways for brands to specifically target that generation. Our Park Gun-woo went out to find more.
People wait outside pop-up stores even before opening hours in the cold weather. Among those people, it is easy to spot a lot of so-called Zalfas, a word used to describe members of Gen Z born between 1996 through 2009, and the Alpha generation born after 2010. And an increasing number of pop-up stores catering to Zalfa-aged visitors have been appearing, especially in places such as Seongsu, where about 100 pop-up stores open monthly. I'm here at a pop-up store located in Seongsu, Eastern Seoul, the site of many pop-up stores. At this store, I'll be riding this boat, one of the activities here that mainly targets the so-called Zalfa generation. Inside, there are a variety of activities for the Zalfa generation to enjoy. The group is also referred to as funsumers because they tend to seek out fun experiences while buying products.
It's great to know what kind of products companies sell and what I can experience through pop-up stores.
To target these funsumers, brands are working hard to make special pop-up stores.
Following the relaxing of COVID-19 measures, pop-up stores have been a great offline marketing means. Brands are trying their best to show their identity while competing with other brands.
She added, through these efforts, over 1,000 people visit the store daily on average, with Zalfas accounting for around 70% of total visitors. She also said that sales at pop-up stores are not as much as the investment put in. According to a professor of consumer science, another reason pop-up stores are popular with the Zalfa generation is that they can make good locations for photos, which can then be posted on social media. The professor also shared negative aspects of these stores.
As these stores open for about 2 to 3 weeks, there's a lot of waste after they close. Also, the high cost of opening stores means a higher price for products.
Though she was concerned about these problems, she predicted that these stores would continue to be popular. However, she said brands would need to be innovative in terms of operation and structure to keep young customers interested in pop-up stores. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Unfortunately, we expect bad fine dust levels this winter in Korea. This is prompting the authorities to limit the operations of certain vehicles and place restrictions on coal-fired power plants starting next month. Our Lee Soo-jin explains what you need to know.
As fine dust levels spike with the arrival of winter, South Korea is limiting operation of certain vehicles and coal-fired power plants. The South Korean government announced on Friday that it will enact the fifth fine dust seasonal management system from December 1st all the way through to March 31st next year. This includes measures aimed at controlling fine dust levels by reducing the amount of air pollution. To do so, starting this year, operations of what are categorized as Grade 5 vehicles in the Seoul metropolitan area, as well as the 6 metropolitan areas including Daejeon, Sejong, Gwangju, Daegu, Ulsan, and Busan, will be prohibited from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and for Ulsan until 6 p.m., excluding only weekends and holidays. Those caught violating the ban will receive a 100,000 won fine, which is around $76. Grade 5 vehicles include mid-size or smaller gasoline-powered vehicles made before 1987 and large gasoline or gas-powered vehicles made before 2000, as well as small to mid-size diesel cars released before July 2002. Also, if air pollution levels continue to rise, the government will also reenact the mandatory alternate no-driving day program for public institutions where employees are unable to drive to work on a given day depending on the last digit of their car's license plate. Also under the system, operation at most of 15 government-owned coal-fired power plants will be suspended and emission levels will be set for 47 others. All of these measures aim to reduce emissions by 17% compared to levels between December 2018 and March 2019, the period before the seasonal management system was implemented. And the Ministry of Environment, along with NASA, will also investigate air quality on the Korean Peninsula as well as East Asia. One expert said that the winter season is when fine dust levels are likely to spike due to higher air pollution.
The reason air pollution is higher during winter is because of heating in buildings. During the summer, fine dust levels go up, mostly due to vehicle emissions, and in winter, it's the heating, especially because solid and liquid fuels are still used in heating systems in Korea.
He added that to further reduce fine dust levels during winter, the government should consider implementing measures that will lead to a switch to electricity and gas heating. 이수진, Arirang News.
While many in Korea are bracing for the steep drop in temperature with chilly winter weather setting in, others are bracing for the steep slopes with the ski season now here. A number of the country's popular ski resorts, mostly located in the usually snowy Gangwon-do province, including the Yongpyeong Ski Resort and Phoenix Pyeongchang Snow Park, opened their slopes today. The Yongpyeong Ski Resort, which has the longest gondola in the country, says it has been operating some 100 snowplows since early this month to create artificial snow. Tomorrow, Hongcheon Vivaldi Park will open, and in December, Lysian Gangchon and Alpensia ski resorts, all in Gangwon-do province, will welcome ski and snowboard enthusiasts.
Tomorrow is forecast to be the coldest morning of the season so far. A surge of frigid air will filter into the nation, bringing temperatures into the minus territory for most regions. So it'll be ice cold at minus 6 degrees Celsius, but temperatures will feel much colder than the actual readings. By Sunday, milder conditions are in the forecast. Meanwhile, dry conditions are intensifying across the East Coast. Winds will be gusting as fast as 20 meters per second from time to time. Please secure any items that could get blown away, such as signboards. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at minus 6 degrees. Daytime highs will be returning to the positive range. Seoul will get up to 4 degrees, Gwangju 8, Busan will be topping out at 10 degrees. And central regions will see showers next Monday, and conditions will get a tad warmer. Next week, our new weathercaster Park So-hee will provide you with the latest weather updates. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this Friday night newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a good night.